Oh, kind of a mess, I know. Sup guys, Shooting Airsoft, back at it again. And we're doing a build. Yes, a build. We're building the dboys M4. Now, this started out as a dboys, so I have a lot of GMP parts as well, so I'm going to call it the dboys. Well, it's mostly GMP and then Mad Bull and Prometheus and Ares and heck, really the only dboys parts that enter barrel. But it's still a dboys part. So, first thing I did on camera, well I did, but I was in portrait mode, so I couldn't use that. I made this receiver. Now, this is a 10.3 inch Daniel Defense outer barrel. The crazy part is that the M933, or your standard M4A1 that uses this type handguard, has an 11.5 inch barrel or longer. And that means that this triangle sight is supposed to sit forward further. I didn't know that, so I had to Dremel and sand out part of the back of the handguard so this could fit. As a result, it's kind of loose. The handguard does not stay in place as it should because I sanded out the part that actually holds it in place, so it can wobble back and forth very ever so slightly, but nothing that a little electrical tape can't fix in the future, so I might put some electrical tape on there to keep it from moving. But essentially this is, well, tapped in. I have to take out this entire system if I want to get access to it again. I cannot take this out. The delta ring does not move at all. It's in the most back position at this point. So yeah, that's the upper receiver, but thankfully it's going to be rewired, so it's not that huge of a deal. Lower receiver is a Mad Bull land tack licensed low receiver. The upper is just a standard style. I wanted the billet style GMP upper that I had. I also put on a new charging handle by GMP. I put on a new selector switch by GMP. I have the bolt release and the mag release taken off because I haven't put the gearbox together yet. But I have, let's see, GMP stubby style stock. I need to cut a part of the back of the receiver off so it can be flush. But you can kind of see what the gun's going to look like when it's finished. So that's what I did for the externals. Internal wise, I'm using the Ares Amoeba EFCS gearbox. Now I did a quick review of it earlier, but essentially it's a nice gearbox. The original models had trouble with the bushings, but that seems to be fixed. These feel a lot more solid. They feel like SHS or ZCI bushings actually. Comes with, I think I lost one of them. There's somewhere around here. Comes with 4 bushings. 2 of them go on the sector gear, 2 of them on the step gear or the spur gear, and the last one goes on, or the last 2 bearings go on the bevel gear. It's a nice setup. I mean, it was shimmed pretty well, I assume, because it had the appearance of being shimmed well, I should say, because it had a lot of shims. The greasing was actually pretty sparingly, but also done very well. They have really nice greasing here, which is why I left the grease for the piston rails and the tap plate rails on. I'm just going to re-grease the gear set because I changed those out for Prometheus high-speed gears. Now the crazy part is that this sector gear does not work because I'm doing the magnet mod. This is the standard ACM style gear set. If you didn't know, powdered steel, nothing CNC. This actually is. You can see the difference here. This is where the magnet originally goes on this one, and you put it back here on this back one, so you have it pre-cocked to the biggest position. So it shoots like a gas blower rifle at that point. As you can see, though, there's no hole for me to put that magnet in there in the back on this one. So I had to find a JG sector gear, and I took off 2 teeth. Originally, I didn't want to. I wanted a full stroke, but whatever. It's going to be short stroke 2 teeth, so it'll just be a little bit faster. You can actually bought these magnets, Omo magnets or something, from Amazon for like 10 bucks. You get 100 of these little guys, 4x4mm N50 Neo magnets. It's definitely strong enough to handle this system. If you didn't know, this is the sensor that you use that goes on the top of the blue chip. This is the actual MOSFET. And then the other half is in here. This little sensor senses where the magnet is and then stops it. So you don't need a cutoff lever, which is nice. Micro trigger switch so you can spam it really easily. Going over the rest of the parts, the stock spring guide is a pot metal base plastic stem with a washer on it. It's okay, it'll last, but I went ahead and got an all aluminum ball bearing spring guide, an Army Force one for $8 on evic.com. This is the stock spring. It's about M120-ish. but I went ahead and picked up this ASG M115 spring, so I might see around the same FPS, maybe a little higher, because we're going to fix some of the air leaks. So we got the gearbox shimmed. I went over a quick update on how I did this. Oh, very quickly, if you want to know how to put the magnet on here, take your stock sector gear and just tap the magnet on top. If the magnet sticks on the top of the magnet, then that's the right way. Put it on that way. Mark the top that's sticking up. Opposites attract, which means the polarity that you want is facing up, and put it that way. Yes, it does matter which polarity faces up towards the sensor if you're doing this mod, so keep that in mind. It's foolproof actually. Just stick it on there. If it sticks to the magnet itself, it's in the right way. If it doesn't, it's the wrong way. And once you have the right way facing up, just mark it with a Sharpie. Really simple. Stick it on your new sector gear and you're good to go. So at this point I shimmed the gearbox, and now I'm going to do the air seal components. So let's get to that. Actually pretty good. I broke the original seal that came on this O-ring on the piston head, or cylinder head I mean. So it's not going to be the strongest, but this actually is a really good piston head. The only thing is, word of warning, if you buy one of these gearboxes, I got again the one on eBay for like 90 bucks. There is no dampener on the end. It's just straight plastic. Yeah, there's a thin, like a really thin O-ring on the back. It's not going to do anything. It's just basically hitting the plastic end. So, yeah, you need a washer on there. The angle of engagement isn't terrible out of the box. It's basically what you would expect. The second to last tooth was cut off of the piston, which is a nice feature. But I do need to cut off the third to last half of that one to get it perfectly aligned. But yeah, I'm going to have to adjust angle engagement and do that. Now the cool part is that I have these faucet washers. This is a 3/8 L size faucet washer. You can get them slightly bigger, but I found that this is actually pretty much the right size for washer on the end. This will essentially shim it to the size that you want. So you just stick that on there, you just score the end of it, super glue it on, and you're good to go. This will adjust the angle of engagement. If you need to adjust it further, put a couple metal washers on the back of the piston head, and you're golden. So yeah, go ahead and do that. And I'll catch you in the next part when I have all the air seal parts finished up. Now, very simple, how to install a silver-thane pattern of faucet washer, whatever you want to use. Just get yourself an X-Acto knife and get yourself your faucet washer or whatever pad you're going to put on the back. And just make some slight little cuts. You don't want to cut too deep. You just want to score the end of it. Now, basically what scoring is, you basically roughen up the surface that you're going to be gluing. You can go both ways. That way you have better adhesion to whatever you're sticking it to. So an X-Acto knife or hobby knife or whatever kind of knife you want is going to be good enough. So you can't really see it, but it's nice and scored. Get your super glue. I like using Gorilla Glue. Well, this is just the one I have. This is a gel kind. I like the gel because it doesn't run all over the place like the other kind does, so you can control it better. So let's wipe off this cylinder head. Alright, so just had to wipe it down with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and clean it off a little bit. So at this point we get super glue. You want a nice little bit of super glue on the outside of your cylinder head. Don't just lather it, but you want a nice film of super glue on your piston or cylinder head, and then stick the scored side of the faucet washer on the end, making sure that the housing or the hole in the middle lines up with the hole for the air nozzle. And you just want to stick it on there. It's pretty center. Apply even pressure while it dries. And we're pretty good. Alright, so leave that to dry, and we'll catch you in the next part. Alright, so the cylinder head is dried and glued and everything. So now we have to do the angle of engagement. Just tested it, it's in the right position, so I need to cut a couple of the teeth off of this steel rack on this piston. Another thing I need to do is glue this in place, because as you can see by hand, I can remove the entire rack of teeth from the piston housing itself. And then I also have to Swiss cheese this as well. Another internal report, there's no bearing on the stock cylinder head. Just a word of warning if you want to build this. So when we get back, I'll have the Swiss cheese and I'll have the teeth cut off properly on this piston. There you go, Swiss cheesed. Now I know a lot of people can Swiss cheese it a little bit more than that, but I'm gonna leave it like this. I would have done it on the bottom here, but there's a seam down the middle and I don't want this thing to split in half. So I think that's a decent amount removed, not too crazy. So yeah, there we go. All right, so at this point, we're ready to put the piston head back onto the piston. There we go. Boom. So there we go, got that. And when we tested in the gearbox, no teeth connect with the angle engagement until the first tooth connects, and then we can pull back the piston. So a piston is complete. All right. So now at this point, pull this back out. A couple more things we got to do before we put this sucker back together. We have to put some Teflon tape on around the side of this cylinder head so that we can fix that seal that we just broke. Now usually from the factory, you have a seal on your, what's it called, cylinder head. The same way with like when you open a glass bottle or even a jar for that matter, it comes sealed from the factory. When you break that seal, it never seals as good as before. So that's what it's like with some of these piston heads. If you're going to take it apart, I was originally going to leave mine as it is because the sealing was good, but then I saw there was no, well actually I wasn't because I was adjusting angle engagement, but there was also no washer at all on the cylinder head, so that would have been problematic. So you just get a little bit of this Teflon tape, tear it off when you get enough of it. That's the side. And then, as you can see, we basically wrap this entire cylinder head with it. You need to cut off some of this Teflon tape, obviously, so just run it along the side of your cylinder head like this to cut through all the garbage. And then just remove the excess from your cylinder head. So there, we have this thing wrapped, Teflon tape, and ready to go. Now you can put some lubrication on this if you want, not necessary. In my opinion, Teflon tape is good enough, and then I think a solvent might just negate the whole purpose of this. So twist it on the same direction that you, well, twist it on the opposite direction, excuse me, that you twisted the Teflon tape onto the cylinder head, so it just tightens the Teflon adhesive or Teflon winding. You want the winding to stay tight so there's no air pockets or anything to cause leaks. So once we get it in there, we don't want to push it in too far because we want to adjust it with the inside of the gearbox, because that's eventually how it's going to sit. If you push it in too far like I might have just done, you're not going to get that perfect seal that you're going to want out of this gun. So put this on to adjust everything. Hear that snap? Alright, this thing is in position. Take this back off. Now we have our Teflon taped cylinder head, and oh yeah, there's basically no leaks whatsoever. If there are leaks, it's coming from this O-ring, but we have a solution for that, and we'll show you how to do that in the next part. A lot of people think that you need to replace a piston head when it starts leaking. Not the case at all. Some things you can do to optimize your stock piston head is stretch out your O-ring. Sometimes your O-ring gets, you know, sitting for a while and has been ran, so it doesn't stay as, you know, spread out as it used to be. The cool part is that whenever you shoot the gun, obviously friction will cause heat. Obviously, it's going to be slamming this forward at however fast you're going to be shooting. So this O-ring is going to expand by the air pushing against it and by just warming up, so it'll expand that way. But another way, you can just stretch it out like this. Leave it on here. You can put a. I've seen people take a flame to this and like a little match or lighter, and that allows it to stay to this size. I'm not going to do that because sometimes you can make the O-ring a little bit too big. I just like stretching it out a little bit, just for creature comfort. This is just mostly a creature comfort thing, because once it's in the gearbox, it'll perform like a completely different O-ring, and just by doing that, the sealing is so much better. Next part we're going to do is oh shoot, yeah, dang, forgot to polish the cylinder. Man. All right, we're gonna have to redo. So I already showed you to do the Teflon tape thing, so I'm not gonna re-show you that, but I gotta polish the cylinder. Completely forgot about that. So yeah, just do the Teflon tape thing. Get Teflon tape. You might have it lying around your house. Seals it up really nicely, and this will be good to go. But now we have to polish this. I guess I can show you how I polish my gearboxes. I just use this Simichrome, I think this was called, metal polish. You can do it by hand or with a rotary tool. I'm going to do both, so I'll do that now. I took a little bit of Simichrome, put it on this paper towel, and now I'm just working it into the cylinder. As you can see, there's already a lot of dirt coming out of it. Good idea to do this, especially if you're excuse me, tuning a gearbox from the factory. These things have been sitting, they've been test fired, and just because they're made in the factory, they're not going to be as clean. So already, I don't know if you can see this, but on the inside, you're starting to get a little bit of a mirror finish, you can see. So I'm going to fold this over. A little bit more of this metal polish. Again, bought this online, or you can go to your local hardware store, see if you can find it. Make sure the polish on the outside. Work it in. I just use my middle finger. You can use a toothbrush, anything of that nature. Don't start with a rotary tool if you're going to do that. And if you do, use one that has a variable speed, so you can use it on the lowest setting. I still find that to be sometimes too fast to get the polish working. You really just want to get it worked into the sides and pick up all the surface dirt and debris on the inside of the cylinder. So just work that in. Again, very simple to do. Some people polish the inside of the stem on the cylinder head. I find that to be a little bit overkill. I mean, if you want to have best airflow possible, sure, but nah. It's the same process. You just get a little Simichrome, but you'd actually use it on a Q-tip, something that size. Pretty simple to do, but don't find it necessary. So now we have that done. All right, I found it. You just want to. I was looking for this attachment so I can put a polishing wheel on the end of this. Do I have to poke a hole in this? Wow, okay. So basically what this is, it's a little polishing wheel, very easy to use. You have a screw adapter, and you just throw it on there. This is made of felt, so it's used for polishing. And I'm going to work it into the cylinder, just work in the last of that polish to make it really nice and shiny and smooth. That thing is clean. I should have shown it before so you can see the after. But you can see it's a very nice mirror finish on there. You can get the same effect with a silicone oil, but that's more of an appearance type change. Metal polish does that. It polishes metal. It can even it's almost like sanding at a very microscopic level. Removes all the small imperfections on the surface. But yeah, this cylinder is ready to go. So I'll redo the Teflon tape on this and continue with the build. A quick test of the new compression. No air leaks whatsoever. This is really, really strong. And I haven't even lubricated it with cylinder grease. So yeah, really good. I think we're ready to finish up this build. So next part, I'm going to use these greases to get everything greased up. I use synthetic grease on the gears and silicone lubricating compound on the cylinder, O-rings, and air nozzles. Keeps them lubricated, and this does a good job of keeping the gear spinning freely. So let's get this thing greased up and put it back together. All right, the gearbox is back together. Last part, get our spring, stick it in the back. Our Allen wrench. That's simple. Hey guys, so it's Cast from the future trying to protect Cast from the past from embarrassing himself. This gun has changed severely since the footage you guys just got finished looking at. I had some videos of it shooting, and honestly, they were not the greatest. Even a good tech like me can make mistakes sometimes. Things just go south on you, and yeah. So you might notice that the M180 Satan motor is no longer in this gun. No, sir. Reason being was that it just caused way too many problems. Yes, I did change out the pinion gear. Yes, I did have it shimmed properly. Yes, I had the motor height adjusted right. But it was just hit and miss whenever I took the gun apart. Now, I had this gun shooting in a very optimal place with the gear set and everything. And all of a sudden, the trigger stopped functioning. Well, it was still functioning, but the micro switch was just kind of loose. Now, I did notice that when I first was teching on the gun, but I didn't think too much about it. It got to the point where it bothered me that I would spam the trigger so fast that the micro switch would not pick up, would not register, and would not go off. I would have to slow down my trigger pulls a lot to get to fire, as it should. That just means I just need to shim it. What I ended up doing was I got a little bit of heat shrink and heat shrunk the end of the trigger and the end of the micro switches itself, so it has a little bit more material to work with, and that fixed the problem. Now, when I put the gun back together, again, I got this new grip on it. It just would not fire properly. Now, the big mistake I made was I was throwing the stock on. This stock screws into the back of the spring guide, and I was torquing it down, and the spring guide came loose because of the screw that was turning into it. I tried torquing it down some more, and I finally started tightening, and I didn't think too much about it. Probably should have checked it again, because that probably would have saved me a lot of trouble. Long story short, the alignment was off the piston. I pulled the trigger. Oh my god. With the M180 Satan, it's like you have to make sure everything is perfect, or it's going to tear up internals. Guaranteed. And unfortunately, I lost my Prometheus high-speed bevel gear. I think it's in the trash right now, but I'm not going to sort through that. Thankfully, it was the bevel gear, not the spur gear or step gear, because with that means I wouldn't be able to use the other. I had a spare bevel gear that I threw in there that was a JG. And honestly, I think it lines up a tad bit better with the pinion gear, actually. So it wasn't a total loss. Now, when I threw in that bevel gear, it functioned properly, and I had to reshim it, which took more time out of my day. But then the double cycle started happening with the 7.4. It didn't happen like that with the original bevel gear. I wasn't sure exactly why the motor was just messing up so much, but eventually I just called it quits, and I threw in a different motor, and it shot fine. And that's where it's at now. The motor I have in here is a Crytek, well, it's a Franken-Torque motor. JG Blue Neomagnets in a Crytek can with the Crytek 30K motor armature. Pretty good, pretty efficient motor. Not really meant for speed on a 7.4, but it can get up and run with an 11.1. So the rate of fire is decent on 11.1, but I have a program for a 7.4. Because that was the first battery I plugged into it. That's how the FCS works. So I would need to buy an electric programming unit if I want to switch it over to use an 11.1 to prevent double shot. Which is a pain because I think it's $60, so as of now I'm stuck with a slow rate of fire. But it functions properly, it shoots well, it feeds good, and everything. Now, after I put that gun back together in the video you guys just saw, the receivers didn't want to meet up properly because I was using if you can see in there, this is a Mad Bull 3-in-1 hop-up chamber. And this hop-up chamber is very problematic. Now, it's pretty decent because it came with the lower receiver. In fact, I'm pretty sure all newer model, even some older model Mad Bull receivers, if you buy them, they'll come with this hop-up unit, which is actually not a bad buy. The thing is that if you want to use a Mad Bull Ultimate hop-up unit, you have to use all the parts included, including the bucking. And yeah, so I originally did a G-hop mod to it. With a lap and a barrel, it did just shot all over the place when I got it to feed properly. Ended up throwing in the Mad Bull blue bucking with a custom cut eraser nub, and it shot straight. So a word of warning, if you use these ultimate hop-up units, you just use the bucking it comes with. It'll save you a lot of headaches down the road with feeding and accuracy problems you have. But going back to the rest of the receiver parts, had to do some more sanding of the receiver. Had to sand the mag release because I had to move it properly. So I had to fine tune a lot of the external stuff, which was a pain. And then still didn't feed properly. Finally did that bucking change, and I finally got it to a state where it would shoot fine. So as of now, it's basically built. I'm just going to go over the internals again. I actually am using the stock spring, unlike the M115 I showed you before, because the stock spring gets me a little bit higher FPS with this. I can always, again, it's a quick change spring, I can always throw in a stronger spring, I can throw in a lighter spring. Since it's a quick change, I mean, it's a very simple mod. I just take off all the externals and switch out the spring, and I could go back and forth. So a minute change there. Using a JG bevel gear, because the Prometheus high-speed one broke, but I'm not seeing too much of a difference in performance. And I did shim it properly, so that's really all that really matters. Had to re-glue some of the bushings because they came out on me. Yeah, and the motor. Changed it to a Franken-Torque. But the way it shoots now is to die for. Finally have it tuned. Let me grab a battery real quick. This just goes to show that whenever you're doing a build, things can go wrong. Even if you have a great plan like I did, I legit planned out this build for months on end before I actually carried it out. Things can go wrong on you. So it's always good to make sure you have spare parts, make sure you have extra things. So you don't make an investment, a big investment like I did into this gun, and not have a functioning rifle. And I guess through a little bit of trial and error and some luck, I finally was able to get it to shoot. So let's hear this trigger response. At full auto, it's not anything special. So that's where I have it right now. It's pretty loud, by the way, because I have this amplifier on the back of it. I hope I didn't wake my dog because it's right upstairs. But you can see I'm going to talk about this grip for a little bit. This is a Element target grip made primarily for an SPR / competition shooting / DMR M4. There's actually supposed to be like a rubber counterweight or rubber pad on the bottom here that could cover it up. But I took that off because I just don't want it on this gun. But I really like the feel of this handguard. It's longer, so I can fit my bigger hands on it. But it's thinner. I like a thin grip, so I can. It allows me to spam the trigger a little bit faster. And you can hear that it allows me to get some very nice follow-up shots on that I would not have been able to do with the grip that you saw earlier in the video. So yeah, that's how the gun stands. No G-Hop mod, no M180 Satan motor. But what I do have is a freaking awesome gun that shoots great in semi-auto and is really ready for any outdoor gameplay that I take it to. Heck, I can even use it in CQB and throw in a lighter spring and I'd be raining mad heck on everyone that I go up against. So that's the P-Boys M4 in its final iteration. I'm probably not going to mess with the M180 Satan motor again. I don't want to risk, destroying something that really has come together as a piece of art. It's definitely going to be a good additive in my arsenal, as is my only M4. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this extended look at what it takes to build a gun. And I'll catch you in the next video. Stallion Airsoft, signing off.